Welcome to A Healthy Bite. You're one nibble closer to a more satisfying way of life, a healthier you, and bite-sized bits of healthy motivation. Now let's dig in on the dish with Rebecca Huff.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and we are here today with Susanna Stoica. She has a 4-part cookbook series, and is it a 5-part cookbook series?
Yes.
So I thought the first was a book about brain injury, and then 4 cookbooks, or is it 5 cookbooks now?
5 cookbooks.
Wow, you have been a busy lady.
Yes, I released actually the last 2 this month.
Okay. Wow. Well, I will have to look and make sure I have the link to your 5th book because I have 4 in my notes. But I was reading and I had read that you earned a PhD in computer engineering with a thesis in computers with circuits modeling brain cell functionality. Wow.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that,
How did I get there?
Yes.
Which part of my life do you want? How did I get to be a healer and the engineer at the same time?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. What happens is that I was always interested in the brain. And because I was interested in the brain, I ended up being the first promotion of computer engineers in my country of origin, which is Romania. And when I had to choose the topic for the thesis, I chose to design a computer with these circuits that models the neural cells. Now, I didn't know exactly what I was choosing, but interestingly enough, it was exactly up my alley. It was a very interesting project because at that time, all over the world, people were working on it. And I could get very little information in Romania. So I went from scientific article to scientific article. I had some people I contacted in the US, and I had by the end of it, actually, I built a small computer working with models of neural cells.
So how is that different from just building a regular computer?
The circuits are much more powerful than the normal circuits because they are reasoning the same way a neural cell reasons, which is you have multiple inputs and the inputs are weighed according to their importance. Usually circuits have all inputs the same weight, so the same importance. And because they are weighed, it's kind of syncing, like the thought process. So it's very, very efficient.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I was very enchanted by the subject. So I ended up being offered, because I built this small computer, to do my PhD in the same thing. And of course, I took it with both hands. So that's how I ended up having a thesis in that subject.
Wow.
Now the healing is because I was looking for some solution to help my husband because he was having really bad backaches. And I ended up buying a book about polarity healing, which is inspired by Chinese medicine. It wasn't enough. I went to the course because the end of the book was saying, don't try it without having a proper training. And when I was at the course, when we were practicing, my hands took off. And I happened to heal this person who was my partner. And I got scared because my hands were working on their own. I couldn't control my hands anymore. And when I looked in total panic at my teacher, he just said, stay with it from the front of the room. I didn't have a choice. What was really interesting is that after that we took a break. And while I was doing the healing, I had some images which were given back to me by the lady who I was working on. And she told me that she had a very bad flu, and after that she couldn't breathe and no one could find out what was wrong. She took several antibiotics, nothing helped, and now she was breathing. So I went home in total shock, told my dad about it, and he said, you were doing healing when you were 7 years old. What? Says, don't you remember when mom walked into a window and she cut badly her forehead? And I asked you to bandage her because my dad was faint at the sight of blood. And so he gave me 7-year-old cotton and bandages and alcohol to clean. And I remember then the cut was really bad. So I felt the need to put my finger on the cut till the bleeding stopped. So I bandaged my mom. She looked like a space cadet, of course. Went to the doctor, and when the doctor took the bandages off, she says, if you would have come right away, I would probably have had her these clamps, because at those times they were using clamps, metal clamps. But now it's nothing to be done. Just ask the person who closed the injury to change the bandage once a day. And as my mom and dad were walking out the room, they say, by the way, who did this? Because my dad told him that it was just a couple of hours ago. Says, my 7-year-old. So he came home smiling. And that was the beginning.
Wow. Now, how did you get from there? And I know that there's a brain injury that comes into play somewhere, but how did you get from there to writing cookbooks? Have you always loved cooking, or how do these things mesh together?
I always loved cooking. My family refused to go to restaurants because they said my cooking was better. Certainly, well, I think they were nice, but
we have that in common.
It was healthier. And I had a double brain injury. I was at the peak of my career as an engineer. I was in-company consultant at a large automotive company. I was working in a medical practice as a resident healer, helping them diagnose very complicated cases, as well as doing my healing work. This was a very nice balance between my left and right brains. It really helped me be more inventive as an engineer and relaxed me from engineering. So it was a win-win. And then I had a slip and fall, actually twice in the same day. And I ended up not being able to talk any language that I speak, and I speak several. I had pain all over my body, horrible headaches, whatever they tried, I couldn't get rid of the headaches. Eventually my body ache, constant body ache, which didn't let me sleep properly, ended up to give me fibromyalgia. And I had to find my way back. I tried to do mazes, which was impossible, children's mazes, and I couldn't make sense of it. That was already a few months later. I would see about an inch by an inch only of the maze. So my vision was affected, everything. And when I started finally to get out of it, by using my previous knowledge of working with brain injury, because I was very good at it. And people with brain injuries would come and I would be able to help them. So I finally realized, after paying a lot of money for useless therapies, that I'd better use my knowledge to get myself on my feet again. And one of the things I started using is cooking. Cooking is very, very difficult for people with brain injuries because you can't use sequencing. Sequencing is very, very difficult. You can't follow the steps. It's enough somebody to say one word and you forgot where you are.
Okay.
So I had to devise a method for myself to be able to cook. And I remember my first recipe was whatever my family liked best, which was a cream of mushroom soup. And I worked a whole week to write up a recipe the way I could actually cook it, which means very, very detailed steps. So I would erase, with a highlighter, whatever I did already, so I don't do the steps twice or forget steps. And that's what the start of my cooking. Now, it took me over 10 years to be able to put enough recipes together and started cooking again. In the beginning, I was able to cook only something very, very simple. And then slowly, it was more and more complicated. But for many, many years, I could cook only one dish at a time. And that I would shop one day and cook the other day. And it was no music, no talking to me, nothing.
You had concentration on what you were doing.
Yeah, concentration exclusively on that. And also I have some, I would do exercises to calm myself down before I would start, to make sure that I can focus. What is most interesting about cookbooks, that when I started doing this cookbook number 4 and 5, of course I recooked everything before releasing the books. I don't know how many times I cooked every recipe. And I found myself improving, and it was 19 years later.
How many years?
19 years. It was in 2000.
Years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still improving, which is amazing. So now I can cook as many dishes as I want, mix them together. It's amazing. I was so happy that I even improved at this point in time.
So this was a major project.
Yes, this was a huge project.
19 years of cooking. So did your cookbooks come out in a series, like one before the other? Did you release them all at the same time?
Last year I released 3 of them. And I released the simplest one, the more complex. I say you go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they are more and more complex.
So if someone with a brain injury wanted to use your cookbooks to get started back preparing meals, it would be better to start with book number 1.
I even mentioned that in my cookbook.
Okay. And so what are the steps you said you had to expand on and really add a lot of details? Because I guess, and this is what I was thinking as you were explaining the process of getting back in the kitchen, and I realize that now, that a lot of steps in cooking kind of overlap one another. So I guess that was where the problem started coming in with the brain injury, is that overlap area.
First of all, the first cookbook doesn't have any oven cooking in it.
Okay.
Because that was one of the problems. You forgot about it. You put things in the oven. Yeah. Also, there are very few steps in those recipes. And as I was cooking, I added ovens and I added more and more steps and more ingredients, till the last book has a soup that requires 2 steps. And I wrote it up. You cook this first, and then you cook that after that. So there are not overlapping steps anywhere.
Well, I think that could be beneficial for more people than you would think. I mean, honestly, all 6 of my kids enjoy cooking to a certain degree, but I think, with younger kids, sometimes that overlap, maybe it's because their brain isn't fully developed yet, that that overlap can cause some problems in cooking. So really, I'm kind of thinking that this might be a good cookbook for starter beginner chefs as well.
Yes, it's absolutely. The book is dedicated to Emilia and Luke, which are my grandkids.
Well, that is sweet. Nice. So do they like to get into the kitchen with you? I'm guessing yes.
They are in the kitchen at 1 and 3.
Wow.
They
Okay.
get up on, especially my granddaughter who is 3 years old, gets up on, there is a special gizmo that you can buy now for them, which is like a cage. On all four sides, you have the cage, and then you go up some steps and get into this cage, and she goes up and she can crack eggs. She's mixing stuff. So she loves it.
I love that. I'm a huge advocate for getting kids in the kitchen as early as possible. I think it helps them develop in so many different ways.
Yes, it's a very good multitasking tool. Plus, you teach them what is healthy to eat.
Right. And I noticed that was one of the
Very important.
aspects of your book, is that you said that when you decided to take on this project, you thought, well, I may as well go ahead and make everything healthy as well.
Yes, yes. I took standard recipes from different traditions and made them healthy. And one of the drivers was that at that time, when I started, my husband was diagnosed with diabetes. Very few of the recipes are not diabetic friendly. Most of them are.
So most of the recipes are good for that. And I think I read that you said some of the recipes were like low fat, and they can be adapted for people doing ketogenic diets.
Yes.
Do you feel like ketogenic would be a good diet to follow maybe for someone with a brain injury?
As a healer, I don't agree with limited diets, which take out completely certain things from your
Restrictions.
diet.
Right.
I'd rather follow something that like the Ayurvedic diet, which tells you certain foods you eat at certain times of the year, which, knowing many cooking traditions, I know that it is part. For example, Hungarian cooking, Romanian cooking have summer food and winter food.
So more following the
And
season.
Ayurvedic cooking has the same thing. So following that, it makes much more sense rather than be limited.
Right.
At the same time, from what I know about the keto diet, is an excellent diet for people with cancer.
Yes, I agree. I've read a lot of research about people with cancer using the ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered if there was a
perfect.
correlation between, high fat diets and, having a healthy brain. But I agree with you. When you have a diet that's really restrictive, there's something that's going to be left out. So.
Yeah, for example, potatoes are a very good source of trace minerals.
Right, especially when you leave the skins on.
Yeah, that skin is good for also for fiber. So if you have a baked potato, that's a very good thing, because if you boil it, it leaches out the minerals. Or you can bake it, and you can put as much butter on it as you wish. So if you want to make it more ketogenic, but it's very nice to have that concentrations of minerals. People need it.
Right. I like the idea of following the seasons with your food. So what's what's in season right now, eating that, or focusing on, local foods. I think that's much better than following a restrictive style diet as well.
Yeah. Also, in summer we eat more salads, and it makes sense because we are hot. But in winter, eating a lot of salad when you are already cold is not a good idea. So you need something which is hot in your stomach in order to function properly.
Right. That makes sense. So in your books, as you're writing these books, and they're getting more advanced, I guess you could say, as they go on. So in the last cookbook, is number 5 basically the end of the series, or is there more to come?
I am entertaining the idea, if people really like and the books take off, to make individual books for individual cooking traditions. But for now, I think I am cooked out.
Everyone in your family is full.
Including all my friends.
I know.
Every time I was cooking a lot so they could take home.
Right.
So they want another cookbook.
I bet they do. I have the same situation whenever I try out a new recipe for my website. I'll make it multiple times because I want to make sure that I'm getting it. And so I'm like, does anyone want to come over and taste test, or can I bring you a serving? And that's always a big hit among the people in my area. So I can relate, but
We become very popular, don't we?
right. So do you know how many recipes you have all total?
It's around 80 recipes. I don't know. I didn't count them.
That's a good bit. And especially
Yeah.
when you consider making them repeatedly, and then photos and things like that, that would take quite a while.
The photos could take quite a while, especially that I have also shopping lists with photos. Because one of the problems when I had the brain injury in the beginning, I couldn't connect the name of the ingredient to how it looks like. So I needed to have a reference, and so I am providing shopping lists.
Well, I think that's unique and very helpful for people. I mean, honestly, I haven't had a brain injury, but I can imagine that would be helpful just for even busy people. So I'm trying to get, I'm thinking that it would be beneficial it's not just a cookbook for people with a brain injury. It's for everyone.
Yeah, I had people to tell me now I can finally start cooking myself.
Yeah.
It's not so daunting to start cooking, because in regular cookbooks, you have things that people know, so you don't write them out.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The author assumes that you know this step, which is why I think it's genius. It's perfect even for kids or beginners, because every single step is written out. You've went to great detail to make sure everything is included and nothing's left out. There's no guesswork.
Yeah. Including at the end of the recipes, I tell people if they can refrigerate it or not, because I suggest people with brain injuries to cook a bigger batch and refrigerate so they can have a variety of food.
That's a good idea.
And I also mention, because that's another problem for somebody with brain injury, what goes with what. So if you have a certain food, does it go with salads? Does it go with mashed potatoes? Does it go with
so
what?
Basically you made suggestions for pairings and things like that, like side dishes.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, I think that it's just the best thing ever that you have created this series of cookbooks for people. And I actually remember reading something, and, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you about it, that you had worked with some Aspergers.
Yes.
Can you tell me just a little bit about that before we go?
It's very interesting. I found Asperger's, at least for all the people I worked with, as being purely energetic problem. That's why they can't find the cure. And it's people don't know about it, but we have an energy circulation which has to happen through our bodies, through what the Hindu tradition says is a chakra system, which are energetic centers in our body which go on the spine area. If that circulation doesn't happen, we have self-esteem problems, concentration problems, all sorts of physical problems and mental problems. By opening up that circulation, people can regain their function, can relate better to people. And I had cases when people who were very nervous and couldn't relate to anyone, after having opened this channel, became more responsive, were able to finish school, and become members of the society.
Wow. And
Which
so
is
they
very
do that
interesting.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
which is very interesting for me to have an illness which is totally energetic.
Wow. And so what is the process for clearing these?
It's an energetic process. You have to open up those channels.
And who would someone go to see? Like, say they were looking for someone locally.
I do my work a long distance, all my work.
Oh, you do? I saw on your website where you had like 3 different evaluation sessions.
I have an original evaluation session, which first of all, I usually have a discussion with the person to make sure that I am the right person for them. Because sometimes I find people coming to me with things that are best fixed by a chiropractor or a osteopathic doctor, or they need some tests, physical tests to be done by their family doctor to eliminate certain causes. Because if it's an old physical problem, I might not be the right person.
Mm-hmm.
Or in conjunction with what I'm doing, they need adjustments. So I usually have the discussions, and if I am the right person, then we have an initial evaluation, which is looking at the energy field, doing the first adjustments to the field.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by adjustment is that everybody has a certain vibrational frequency of the field and a certain strength. And you go into the field and you feel it, and some regions would be different. And those are which you have to work so the whole energetic system works together properly. And when that happens, our own programming from birth to get us healthy works perfectly.
Wow.
So healers don't heal. Healers just balance the energy field. So once I do that, then I have an idea what type of sessions they need. Usually they need follow-up healing sessions. And those are very different for very different people. I can never tell them how many sessions they will need. I only know that the person is close to being done when the energy field starts holding the healthy pattern from session to session.
Wow. Okay.
And they can sign on my website. And
right. I saw you have kind of a work with me section and a drop down menu where it's sign up for that. Okay. Well, I will make sure to put the link to your website and all of your cookbooks in the show notes for this. Do you want to tell us what all where we can find you on social media? Are you on all the social media, or?
I have a Facebook, Recovering from Brain Injury, but the most information, I try to put an information to stay, and that is on my website, thehealingbraininjury.com.
Thehealingbraininjury.com. I did see you had a YouTube channel as well.
Yes, I have, but all that information is connected to my website.
Okay, so if we just go to your website, that's where everything's going to be found.
Yes, because that's much easier for a brain injured person to go to one
place. Oh, well, it was really nice talking to you today. It was so nice to meet you, and I'm excited about your cookbooks. I'm a huge fan of cookbooks. I actually have a little problem with collecting too many cookbooks.
I know the problem. I know.
And so I feel like we're a little bit of kindred spirits in that department. So my family says the same thing that you say yours does. They don't want to go out to eat. They want to eat at home. So
that's good, because if you go out, because people usually like fats, sweets, and carbs, that's what you get. At home, you can choose what you eat, and you can eat much healthier.
Exactly. And at home too, I think it's more of like the environment of just the being together. I like to have an open area where even if the kids aren't helping me cook, we can kind of be in the same area. So
the whole cooking process is a collective fun stuff that you can do with your family. And eating together is very important for the family.
It is. I think it's one of the most important things families can do is to have time together around the table.
Yes, it's very important.
Well, Susanna, thank you so much for coming on here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your, what I'm sure is a very busy schedule to meet with me.
Yeah.
And
thank you very much for having me. This was a real fun meeting.
Right. It was great. I'm very impressed with all of that you do. And I'm going to make sure that I have all of the links to your cookbooks and your website and everything in the show notes for this episode. So
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.
And good luck with cooking.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Please rate and review so other people can learn about this podcast. Find out more about sleep, hygiene, eating healthy, tasty recipes, zero waste lifestyle, and lots more on ThatOrganicMom.com. Help us spread the word. Be blessed and stay healthy.